I want to bring on now a woman that I've grown to love and appreciate. She's a very special person. She's so able. She's so bright. She does not back down. She does not take no for an answer. This came out of a tremendous teacher's challenge, educational challenge. You were in a case where we had friends on both sides of a difficult argument because there are some people who do not mean to educate our children. See, whenever we agree on the best deal, the gap between Neuqua Valley, Silicon Valley, inner city is unacceptable. In other words, when we get the best teacher deal in town, the best education deal, they fund education based upon tax base rather than the worth of the students. So those who have the most tax money have the best education. We do well on the football field, basketball court, say whenever the playing field is even, rules are public, goals are clear, referee is fair, school is transparent, we do well. In education, it's not even. That's the heart of that fight. There's no intent to educate our children. The mayor and our union leaders worked out a deal finally, and that's behind us. But there are more challenges to come. The police, they're going to be making their move, and the firemen making their moves. In all these cities, John Rogers, we simply have more needs than, say in all the cities, we have more needs than resources. More needs. And Todd, in Baltimore, where you're from, and Newark, and Detroit, it's worse because their police have the right to live outside the city. Teachers outside. Firemen say when they live outside the city, they take their salaries, their tax base, their shopping, and their values. They come into the city every day as foreigners. In Chicago, they must live inside the city. That's a big. Can you imagine the tax base, what it means to Baltimore, or to Newark, or to Detroit, when those who police every day live outside and come in scared, come in every day with some kind of fear? That's where you have all these brutality cases. We intend in Chicago to the model for the nation. Police and teachers and firemen should live in the city that they serve. If a honeybee got nectar from this flower, it wouldn't just fly away. It drop pollen where it pick up nectar. Because if it flies away and didn't leave pollen, the flower would die. Fly back, flower dead, honeybee dead. Say honeybees have enough sense to feed the flower that they rob. When police and teachers, so when police and teachers and firemen get the nectar from the city, so pollen and suburb, they kill the city. They don't have honeybee sense. We're fighting back. We're fighting back. I'm unapologetically a Laura Lightfoot supporter. She brings something special. She brings a kind of intellect. She cannot be pushed around, cannot be pushed down. And I want us to give her the kind of love that she deserves, because I think in the trenches she'll protect us. So when the mayor has limited resources, all the mayor really can do is be fair, be transparent. Be fair, be transparent. Our mayor is fair, transparent, intellectually competent, able to do the job, and deserves our support. Uber and Lyft will not divide our city. Uber and Lyft. So we need Mayor Lightfoot more than we need Uber and Lyft. Uber and Lyft, say in our city that they do the right thing. Mayor Lightfoot, come forward. We love you so much. Give a big hand.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Reverend. You always make sure that we are focused on the right things. And the right thing for this moment is making sure that we do everything that we can to uplift everyone in every neighborhood in our city. A lot of conversation around equity and inclusion, as it should be, and it will continue to be, because there are people in our city that are hurting. They need us to see them and to be neighbors and reach out to them and do everything that we can as a city to provide resources and support and love. You heard the young girl, fourth grader standing up and talking like she's an adult with no fear and confidence. Where does that come from? That comes from people in her life who love her and who are teaching her the right way and providing her with the right supports. And that's what we need to do for every child in our city, regardless of zip code, demographic, immigration status. Every child needs to shine like this young woman. So I'm here to talk to you about a couple things today, but I want to frame it in this notion of equity and inclusion. Because what we have been trying to do diligently, our team, from day one, is to look injustice in its face and start dismantling its grip on people throughout this city. We have done that first and foremost by reforming our regressive fines and fees system. And let me expound on that a moment. What we found is that the city of Chicago, for way too long, has balanced its budget on the backs of people who are least able to shoulder that burden. We found that people were losing their livelihoods, losing their cars because of a parking ticket. Cook County has the highest Chapter 13 bankruptcy filings in the country, and most of that was driven by people who owe the city of Chicago debt. Now, you know that's not right, and we have to do something about that, so we have done that. We have reformed our fines and fees structure. We will no longer take people's driver's license because they have parking tickets. And I'm pleased to say that the state has now passed a bill that makes that state law, not just citywide, but state law here in the state of Illinois. The other thing that we have done is we said to people, look, come out of the shadows. If you owe the city debt, we will work with you to find a payment plan that works, and if you pay consistently over time, we will extinguish your debt. That's the right thing to do, to give people hope and have them participate in the economy. And more recently, we've looked at, because we've heard this from people, that water bills and sewer bills are crushing people. Again, inequity, because seniors, people on a fixed income, were having difficulty. And I believe that water is a basic human right. No one should be cut off from water. So I have mandated that in the city of Chicago, if you are a resident, you will not ever lose your access to water. And more than that, starting next year, those people who owe for water and sewer, we're going to give you a reasonable path to have a payment plan that fits with your resources. And if you pay consistently on that self-tailored payment plan, the past debt that you owe will be wiped away. And this is a small thing, this next thing, but it's an important thing. Our libraries. You know our libraries are all over the city. We have 80 libraries covering all of our 77 neighborhoods. And the libraries are the hub and now the public square in many neighborhoods. They provide a warm place. They have people there to help you navigate the internet. They give you books. But what we found is that people owed a debt to the library and they didn't come back. So what did we do? Again, focusing on equity and inclusion, we've eliminated fines in the Chicago Public Library. We are the largest system in the country to do that. And what has happened? Tens of thousands of people have come back to the public library. We're finding books we hadn't seen in decades. But we're opening up the doors of opportunity to people in the city so that the libraries aren't a bastion just for the wealthy, that the libraries can serve communities in the way in which they are attended to, and we're not letting fines be a barrier to that any longer. Now, I also want to tell you about a couple other things before I sit down. One is, over the course of the last year, I have heard the cries of people in neighborhoods all across the city who are saying, Mayor, we need help. We need investment. We need jobs. We need hope to make sure that our young people are connected up to good, productive, legitimate activities. So what we are doing along with these other things is, over the next 3 years, we will be investing $750 million in commercial corridors all across the south and the west side to bring an infusion of cash and investments to uplift these neighborhoods and spur economic development and bring new housing and new open spaces and retail to neighborhoods that deserve to be the focus of our attention and our investment. You know that the heart of the Chicago isn't just in the downtown and the north side. Things are happening, great things are happening south of Roosevelt Road and west of Ashland. And we need to make sure that we are supporting the efforts of people on the ground in these neighborhoods. And our new initiative, we're calling it Invest Southwest. Invest Southwest will do just that. One other issue that I want to talk to you about, and we will be coming back again and again, is the census. Reverend, you know that if we are not counted, we lose out. If we are not counted, we lose out. Now, there's been a concerted effort to scare people, to drive people into the shadows and not be counted. The last census in the city of Chicago, shamefully, we only had 66% of our population counted. Now, if we don't have everybody counted, that's $1,800 per person for 10 years multiplied by tens and thousands of people. And what that means is we lose our voice in Congress. We lose the money that should be coming back to Chicago for infrastructure, for transportation, for human resources. This census is so critically important to who we are. And yet, you know this, there's a concerted effort to make sure that in cities all across the country, we are not counted. If we're not counted, we're not heard. If we're not heard, we have no voice and no power. So my friends, we must turn this around and be counted. The census opens in April. It runs through July. And we need your help and support to make sure that every Chicagoan, from the babies to the elders, is counted. And we will talk more about that. Now, I also want to talk about an issue that's animated the news here in Chicago recently, and that's around rideshare. So let me tell you what we are proposing and separate a little fact from fiction. What we found is that the amount of cars on the roads in Chicago over the last 5 years has risen exponentially. And that is because of companies like Uber and Lyft. If you try to go downtown, you can't even get from east to west or west to east because the traffic is just clogged nonstop. We don't have a rush hour anymore. We have a whole day of traffic congestion. You know what I'm talking about. And so what we are proposing to do is to incentivize people to take public transportation or true ride share, more than one person in a ride. And what we know is that a lot of folks are coming from the north side, from Lincoln Park and other places, driving one person in a car downtown and adding to tens of thousands of traffic congestion every single day. So we say for those folks, look, if you want the luxury of taking a car from the north side into the downtown area, then you're going to have to pay a little bit more. But what we also know is that most of the south side and west side, people are going from neighborhood to neighborhood, not to the downtown, and they're actually engaging in true rideshare. So for those folks, because they are actually using rideshare in the way that it was intended, we're going to reduce the rate for those rides. So don't let anybody tell you that we are trying to take away options on the south and the west side for transportation. Couldn't anything be further from the truth? But what we are saying is, hey, rideshare companies, you got to pay your fair share. You got to pay your fair share. You use our streets, you use our infrastructure, you pollute our air, and you've had free reign for way too long. It's now time for you to pay your fair share. And let me just say in closing, there's been an effort made to try to divide us one from another. The ministers are saying this and the mayor is saying that. No one can divide us if we don't let that happen to ourselves. No one can divide us if we don't let that happen. We have to stand united. Why? Because we all have the same values. We want to make sure that communities are supported, that we get our fair share, that we get investment. I know some of these ministers. I've known them for a number of years, and I know where their heart is. I know what they care about is their community and doing right by them because they've been toiling in these vineyards, in some instances, for decades. And we need to support their efforts and support their work and never let anyone divide us. Because as Reverend said, if we don't stand together, we fall apart. Right? Who is going to be protecting our interests if we are not doing that for ourselves? So we will be united, we will stand together, we will continue to collaborate because that is the right thing to do for our communities. So I thank you, Reverend Jakes, for opening up West Point. We have to give a little shout out to the West Point Choir because they've been doing a good job today. But I thank you for the opportunity to be here and to be conscious of the community and keep talking about the issues that are most important to us. We will be here. We will continue to listen and be present. And I look forward to the things that we are going to be able to do to not just do transactions, but to transform communities. That's what I want to be about. Thank you very much.
Summer 1968.
There appears to be a kind of insensitivity to our demands on the part of the congressman. There is a kind of blasé atmosphere. Some have come to visit us. The camp strikes them as a kind of novelty.
During the Washington, D.C. Poor People's Campaign, Reverend Jackson is appointed mayor of Resurrection City. It is here that he first fashions his signature chant of I am somebody.
I am somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Talked about an organization that would involve people in a united struggle, and so it was people united at first to save humanity, and then at a later point it became people united to serve humanity.
Just what is Operation Push?
Well, Operation Push is a civil economics organization. It's a religious organization with an economic mission. And we believe that the black church is the political and spiritual salvation of our people. And it is to that extent that we challenge churches and churchmen to get involved.
I think when I went to jail the first time, like I was born again. Something happened within me. A fire was lit that never went out, really.
When the hungry look up and see us coming trying to give them skills, somebody might say, who are they? We just people united.
He would wear a dashiki, he'd wear Martin Luther King medallion, he'd wear a buckskin vest, but he would preach the King tradition and economic rearrangements.
We want to turn on the gas. We want to turn on the water. We want to sell the clothes. We want to sell the cars. We want to be men. We want self-determination. What time is it? When we stand together, what time is it? When we say no more yes about, what time is it?
What time is it? What time is it? Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Martin King. What time is it? When we come together, what time is it?
Reverend Jackson captivated me. And I was just totally, anything he wanted me to do, I would do it. And everything he wanted me to do was something good for somebody.
Reverend Jackson is featured on 60 Minutes, challenging high school students to avoid diversions and achieve excellence in school.
High school graduation must be seen as the passage of rights into adulthood. On that graduation day or night, we must put a diploma in one hand, symbolizing knowledge and wisdom, and put a voter registration card in that other hand, symbolizing power and responsibility.
The segment is the first national broadcast outlining the impact of the Push for Excellence program, founded in 1975.
I am somebody. Oh, I am somebody.